Welcome back to Making a VR Game. Today is day 8, and we are going to add some characters in. So I've got a thief here. So we're going to get the thief added in, look at animations and animation controllers, how to move him with a navigation controller. And so we got how to bake navigation meshes, and that way when we start the game, he can invade our house. Get out of here. Get out of here, thief. All right, here we go. So to get the characters into here, I'm going to use the Simple People cartoon characters. And I'm not the biggest fan of these characters. They're just, I think they're a little bit too boxy. And but my theory on 3D models, since I'm not a good 3D artist and I couldn't make 3D models like this, or if I tried it would take me a really long time. So my thought on using assets in general is most assets people will never know you use them. For example, I'm using this Text Mesh Pro, and that just makes my text look really nice and crisp. Nobody's going to look at that text and say, he's using Text Mesh Pro. That's awful. And that goes for a lot of stuff, like I guess any scripting packs, like my VR movement pack or something. Nobody's really going to care that the character is moving with, or even know that what script you're using to move. So the most visible way to see it, this game is using assets, and people try to complain about that, but my thought on that is, does it even matter what people think about the art in your game if the game is not making you money? So in other words, if you're not earning money on it and the customers aren't paying any money to you, what right do they have to complain in the first place? They don't. So when it matters is when your game might be earning you money. And so what this means is I like to use assets just to get the game done fast and get it over with, and I don't have to spend money getting 3D models developed, and I can release the game, and maybe it's going to get 100 downloads, and maybe it's going to get 10,000, or so you don't know how many downloads you're going to get. So if you release your game using some 3D model assets, and then you get, let's say, 1,000 daily active users, or 10,000 downloads, but when you have your 1,000 daily active users, and the game's actually going to potentially be generating money for you, then let's go ahead and spend some money on getting some custom characters made for it, and hire that 3D artist to get it done. But until your game has 1,000 downloads, or some significant amount of engagement, it's not worth spending the upfront money to get all these custom models made, when you could just spend $10 and get your prototype out there, see if it's going to get any traction, and then start replacing your assets with real art. Now that that's over with, let's use these assets, and if the game does well at all, which isn't the intention with this, then of course it's time to hire a 3D artist. Now, to bring in these guys, we got the demo, and there's animations, materials, models, prefabs, and textures. Prefabs is going to be the place to start out, and these, like I was saying, some of these models are just not that great, but it's okay. It'll get us going. And who I'm looking for is probably going to be these robbers. They got the 3 different robbers in here. So I'm going to just drag a few into the scene and press play, see where we're at. I can walk around. And they're in a walking animation. So first of all, I'm going to work on these guys outside. And I'm kind of building the game concept as I go. We have to build it really quick, and so what I'm thinking at the moment is to make a home invasion game where these robbers are coming in to rob your house, and you have to defend yourself or survive. But it's going to be just a real quick, because I want this tutorial series needs to get done. We need to release the game to Google Play, and I think in any game development, you need to develop it very quickly, like in 30 days if you can, and release it, and see where it goes from there. But spending years on a game is not a great idea as an indie, unless you have years worth of money to blow. To get these guys going, I want to work outside, and they're probably going to start outside and then come into the house after a little bit of time. So I'm going to go ahead and make a plane out here, and this will probably get replaced with something else later on, but let's get the plane out here, and I'm going to scale it up so we got some room to work with. And let me just drag these guys outside. And I'm just going to start working with one for now. And let's look at what's going on, because right now when you play the game, he just starts walking. So we can look at the animator, and this is the animator that comes with the simple pack. So we either need to make our own or modify this one to work with our game. So I see now that there's an idle state, but for some reason he's into a walk static. And the condition to go back to idle is going to be if his speed is less than that, which obviously his speed is, he's not moving. But I think for the purposes of a tutorial series, it would be best to kind of start from scratch. I'm going to look through here and just kind of see what we got. We got the different models, and so because this is the robber prefab, only the robber one's turned on. So I guess I could delete those, and that's going to break the prefab, which is fine, because I'm going to go ahead and modify a lot of stuff on this guy, starting with the animation controller, it looks like. So the guy's made up of a game object that has an animator, a mesh, which one mesh is the entire guy, and then there's the skeletal structure here, which is the transform for all the bone positions. And we also have the axe behind on the counter. Okay, we're going to the simple characters, okay, but I don't know how to use all this stuff, and I didn't name it, so I would rather start off with my own. And when you're dealing with these guys, we can see that he has an avatar, which is the simple people avatar. And the avatar is how the bone structure is set up. And I do have a tutorial on how to do this with Blender, and pretty soon I'm going to be having a tutorial series on how to do this with Maya. But because here I could see it looks like there's some bones that. But anyways, it's obviously working fine. We can see that all the bones are assigned in here. There's a shoulder bone that I see is kind of missing, so I don't know why that shoulder bone hasn't been assigned, but I'm not going to worry about it because the pack came like this, so as long as it works, that's okay. Now on this guy, we go into the models, and this is the simple people model. We can see that it has the rig set up with the humanoid, and the avatar is what we just looked at. So because it has the humanoid avatar, it's going to work with the Mecanim animations, and any humanoid animations that we get, we can use with this guy, not just the ones that came with this pack. So I guess I'm ready to make my animation controller. So I'm going to go into my animations controllers. I'm going to go ahead and create a new animation controller, and this one I'm going to call Robber Controller, and the animation controller is on this object, so I'll drag Robber Controller here, and now I should be able to see that on the animator tab since he's selected. And this does nothing, so let me create an empty state, and this is going to be idle, and I'm sure there's got to be an idle character, auto idle. There's simple people, idle. So we should be to the idle state out here. And I want these guys to use probably a Nav Mesh Agent, because they're going to need to run into the house, and I don't want them to have like an animated predefined path that I want that's the same every single time. I would want them to have some random logic to where they run around, which means the best way I know how to do that is with the Unity navigation system. So on this, and the ground mesh is in here, we're gonna have to bake a nav mesh, and he'll have to have a navigation controller, or a Nav Mesh Agent is what the word I'm looking for. So we got the Nav Mesh Agent, and I'm going to go ahead and place him on the ground. This plane isn't at 0, so I'm going to raise it up, and it's going through the house. I'll just move it here for now. So we got the mesh, and then this is going to be static because that is navigation static, which we need for the Nav Mesh bake. So on this guy, he should be back on the ground now, but his navigation agent size, where do we got here? The height is 5.6, and if I remember, these guys are about 2.5 or something. We're going to have to do a base offset, or not do a base offset, that is. And 2.7 was about up to the head, so that's fine. We could bring the radius down quite a ways. That should probably work. That's a 0.7, I guess, is okay. All right. Now on the ground, I'm going to go ahead and get the Nav Mesh baked. So I'm going to go to Window and Navigation, and we should have navigation static. We can set the parameters here, and so on the navigation bake, we got the agent radius, so we're going to compare this to this cylinder here. So this is our guy, and we could see what all these numbers are talking about. The agent radius is set to 0.5, and how close to the walls the navigation must exit. And our radius, if we go back over here, is 0.7. So I'm going to keep it at 0.5, but we should either match that with our agent radius here. That should be okay. But he could clip through the walls. So let's go ahead and set the agent radius to 0.7. Make him a little bit bigger here. And the agent height is set to 2. And so our height is 2.7. And so I'm going to set that up for here, 2.7. Now he looks a little bit slimmer. And we got the max slope of 45-degree angle. This is what's the max slope before the agent cannot walk up it anymore. So when he gets to this hill, he's not going to be able to walk up that. So 45 is fine. Step height is how far up can he step up a step. And so this is for like a staircase or when he's going into the house. A distance of 0.4 is going to be too high, and he cannot pass over that. And then there's the generated off-mesh links, and that's something that we probably won't go into on this game, but the off-mesh link is when you can have navigation shortcut which are not represented using walkable surfaces, for example, jumping over a ditch or a fence. And you can see here how the off-mesh link, you can connect this, and then you can build off-mesh links automatically, which is what we're talking about here for generate the off-mesh links. And so if I look at my bake on this object, it says generate off-mesh links. So generating the off-mesh links is when these links between the navigation meshes are detected automatically, and the most common ones are drop down or jump across. So drop down links are created to drop down from a platform, as we can see here, and then jump across links are created to jump across a crevice. And so here is the jump distance, and then here is the drop height. And that's what corresponds to these two values right here. And in this case, the only, I don't think there's going to be any jump distance because a drop height, because if anything, we're going to be going up a couple of steps into the house. And we already have our step height set up, so this is not a step. This is a drop, a totally different thing. And then I don't think we'll have a gap. And if we do, it would be a gap from going outside of the house to the inside, and that's so there may be a small gap between outside and inside when we're going between the door. And that's kind of what it says here. For example, jumping over a ditch or opening a door before walking through it. So I believe we'll be able to get away with turning off off-mesh links, and we'll leave these values default by having that at 0. So I'm going to press bake, and it's gone ahead and baked the navigation for the entire house. Now I can see I could already walk into the house. So I definitely don't need that off-mesh link, even though there's no mesh down here. I'm going to create a 3D object I'll just start with a cube so it's visible. And on the cube, I'm going to try to get this guy to walk to it with his navigation mesh agent, which means we're going to need to add a script. And I see that I have the navigation mesh agent on the child where the skin mesh renderer is. I don't want it there. It should be on the parent object with the animator. So I'm going to paste it there, and we should be able to remove this component. That looks better. And I'm going to add a movement controller here, or an AI. It's probably going to turn into an overall AI script for the robber. So I'll say controller. So I'm going to add this C# script, and let's do some things with the Nav Mesh Agent. And to help me out, I'm going to come over here quickly, and so now I can look at all of the variables and functions and members, and I can know how to move this Nav Mesh Agent around. So I'm going to say private nav, and I don't see Nav Mesh, so I think I have to say using Unity engine navigation, but that doesn't help because only networking came up. And this is Unity engine AI. That's right. So I have to say Unity engine.ai. And now I have a Nav Mesh agent. And I'll just say my nav. I'll just call it my nav, because I know that's my nav agent. So when the script starts, we need to find that. And we'll say my nav agent is equal to get component Nav Mesh Agent. So now that we have access to the Nav Mesh Agent, let's make a function called, I'm going to make it public. It'll return void, and we're just going to say go to point, and we'll pass in a vector 3 position. My Nav Mesh Agent dot set destination, and we just need a vector 3 target, and so let's just call that target, which means I need to go change this one to target. That should work. And I think that'll work. We just have to call this go to point function somehow. So I guess when it starts, this point we're not going to keep this code. I just want to see if it works. I'm going to say public transform target. I keep misspelling that, and when it starts, we'll call go to point, and we already have a transform, so we're going to say target dot position. So when the game starts, the robbers got a null reference exception because he never got a cube assigned to his target. Now he is going to walk right through. Well, he won't walk through the cube. He'll bump into it, but his navigation controller doesn't. Oh, I guess he does go through it because he doesn't have a collider. So I'm just curious what happens if I add a box collider to this guy. Because the cube has a collider too, and the navigation bake doesn't know that the cube's there. So I guess the navigation controller takes those colliders straight into each other. Now on update, if I say my nav agent speed, and I actually want to debug.log that, then I can find out how fast that guy's going. And he's going 3.5 because if I look at his navigation mesh agent, his speed is set to 3.5. And my animator is still in idle mode. And so I'm going to go ahead and make a new state. And this one is going to be called, well, he might be walking or he might be running. And I want a smooth transition between those. So I'm going to create a blend. What am I talking about? I need to create a blend tree. I need to create a blend tree. And this blend tree is going to be it's going to be called locomotion. And I got to go to the blend tree. And one dimensional is probably fine. I'm going to double click the locomotion blend tree here. There we go. Let's add a motion field and another motion field. And one of these is going to be for walking. In fact, I might even want 3 in here to get the idle motion in here. Let's try it. Let's try it out. I'm going to add 3, and the first motion is going to be the idle. So that is this one with the simple people. And after that, we're going to do walk. Okay. And after that, we're going to do run. The threshold is where it changes between these animations. And right now the threshold is set to the blend, and I want that to be the speed. So I'm going to make a new flow called speed, and I'm going to change the parameter here to speed. So what this means is speed is 0 right now, but I'm going to change it between 0 and something. It goes right now between 0 and 3.5. So this threshold says when speed is at 0, I'm going to play idle. If it's 0.5, I'm going to play walk. If it's at 1, I'm going to play run. And I'm going to play those animations at a speed of 1, and speed being the normal speed of the animation playing. This is a speed of 1 right here. And so you see if I increase, you'll see the same parameter here as here. If I increase this up to 2, it's just going to loop that faster, obviously. So I want to keep this at 1. And I want to keep these at 1. But running is going to be full speed, and there's an option to automate thresholds. I don't want to automate the thresholds. I want to set the thresholds to where 3.5 is running, and I might adjust these later. And walking, I don't know, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. So halfway between 0 and 3.5 is going to be 1.75. And I can watch it. This looks like if I press play. And then I move my speed. And I don't know what he's doing here. He's halfway between a walk and a run, I guess. It looks really funny right there. Looks like he's trying to dance. Alright, I'm going to go with 2 and 3.5. And now all we have to do is set the speed parameter, which is really simple. We just have to say my Nav Agent. Well, first of all, we're going to have to get access to the animator. So we need a private animator. My anim is what I like to call this. And it's the same exact as this. We have to, my anim is equal to get component animator. And then we could just say my anim dot speed, what is it? My anim dot speed is equal to my Nav Mesh Agent speed. That way, if he starts going to the box, it's gonna play. But it's not going to play. And the reason why is because it never goes into locomotion. Now, locomotion is a part of idle, so I'm going to set locomotion as the default layer, and idle is going to go away. And then from here, we can transition out to other animations like attack or die or get arrested by the police. Now, I'm seeing the speed here isn't doing much. And if I look at my locomotion, it's definitely sitting down there at 0. Now, my anim.speed, that's really funny because if I look at the Unity animator, the speed variable is the playback speed of the animator, and one is normal. And that is not... I named my variable speed, but that doesn't mean you say dot speed. You say my anim dot set float, and you can either give it an integer ID or a string name. I'm going to give it the string name speed, and the float value is my Nav Agent dot speed. And let's see what's going on here. Well, he's running in circles now. Why is he running in circles? It's gotta be root motion. Because he wasn't doing that when he was in idle. So here there's apply root motion, and that's going to turn off root motion. Root motion is when the animation moves the transform and rotation of the character. And in this case, the Nav Mesh Agent is moving the guy. And so I don't want the animation moving him as well. So we'll just on-check the root motion here. Now, obviously, he needs to be moving faster than that. So let's go back to this guy and let's turn up his speed. We'll go up to 6, and I'm going to hit pause when I press play so that I can come over here and step forward and watch his feet on the ground. And if it had a texture, it'd be better. Then I could see how much his foot is slipping, but these grid lines should work. Now here he's going to step onto the ground, and his toe should stay at this point. And you could see his toe. It was pretty close. But it looks like, in other words, this foot should remain at that position. And that's actually pretty good. Let's go full speed and see how it looks. So I think a speed of 6 looks okay for now. And if we wanted to watch that even more, I could move this cube all the way to the side of the map, because the navigation agent is going to run straight to that. And then let's just add in a couple of obstacles to see how that works. I'm going to add in a 3D object here, and of course do a cube. We're just going to make it big. Let's go 10, 10, 10. And I'm going to set that static because that's going to automatically check the navigation static. And I want it at a Y of 5. That'll be right on the ground because it's the size of 10. And then I'm just going to duplicate this to kind of block the path off here. Okay, let me do a navigation bake. And it's hard to see because the cube is in the way, but if I turn these off and go back to the navigation pane, you'll see what happened here was the navigation bake blocked all the areas where the cube are, and they even allowed movement on top of the cubes. So let me turn these cubes back on and turn on the navigation agent. Well, start the game so that the navigation agent starts running. And if I select him, let's go to the navigation path, and he's going to run the shortest distance around these cubes to arrive at his final destination. All right, now these will be those are like buildings or something. We need to replace them with buildings. But let me move this cube to the inside of the house, and we're going to try something like this. I'll just look at the door this time. There he comes. Intruder! Intruder! Okay, this is going to wrap up today's video. But we have the framework for some AI on and some characters. We figured out animation and animation controller and how that works with navigation and navigation mesh. How to bake navigation mesh. So a good start. Stay tuned for more coming up soon on day 9. Thanks for watching, guys. Give it a like. See you in the next video.